Good morning, everybody.
Boker Tov.
How you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Fine, thank you.
All right, let's rock and roll. So today we're going to be looking at the last words of the line Shema Yisrael, which are Hashem Echad, and we'll do another deep dive into unity and singularity, and like we've been doing every day, setting an intention. We will continue with the same intention. That our goal in tefillah is not what we generate for ourselves, but in fact we have to constantly bear in mind that we are here in the service for others, and that not only is it about, like we said yesterday, that our insights that are generated today can infuse our interpersonal relationships and how we go out into the world after we finish davening. But in fact, going into davening, we have to always remember, like the Talmud teaches us, Kol Yisrael Adevim Zelazeh, that we are all standing in for one another, and we are responsible for one another, and we are required to look out for one another. And so with that, we'll say first in the Hebrew and then in the English. We'll create this intention for ourselves that our service and our day should be, our davening and our day should be a day of service and a day of commitment towards others, specifically in a way of love, that love is about giving oneself. So we'll say together, Hareini, Makabel, Alai, Mitzvahs, Aseh, Shel, V'ahavta, L'reacha, Kamecha. I hereby accept upon myself the positive commandment of loving my fellow as myself. And as we internalize that and we express that in speech, we'll carry over and express that in action, and we'll take our coin and we'll put it in our pushka. We will give of our own vitality in a physical sense, in a material sense, and commit it to the benefit of another. So we've spoken about Shema, we've spoken about Yisrael, and yesterday we spoke about Hashem Elokeinu. And we discussed the paradox and the seemingly opposite effect or opposite representation of Gilui, of revelation, and Helem, and concealment. And we discussed how, in fact, that they work in tandem, and that the goal of cultivating our mind and aligning our mind and our mind's eye to generate a new reality for ourselves is to get to a place where we see, or we have some sense of grasping how Havaya and Elikim, how revelation and concealment work in tandem. And the ultimate goal is to come to a place, not necessarily where we can totally internalize the existence of the essence of God, the way it transcends both of those paradigms, but to know of its existence in some capacity. The language that the Kabbalists use in this is that there is Yedias HaMatzias and Yedias HaMahus. Yedias HaMatzias is to know of an existence, and Yedias HaMahus is to know the nature of it. And while we can't intimately know the nature of how God's essence can manifest in both a form of revelation and a form of concealment, things that we perceive to be opposite. But yet he's using them both in tandem in a similar function. So we can't know the intricate makeup of that, but we can know of its existence. And the more we involve ourselves in knowing of its existence, the more we can maybe refine how we see this world and refine ourselves in how we relate to one another, in realizing that everything is an expression of godliness. And the Shema finishes off Hashem Echad, that God is one, that everything that we've spoken about, all the contradiction of revealment and concealment, and the transcendence, the transcending of those two, all of that exists as one in unity. And the famous question that's often asked is that really we should say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Yachid, that Hashem is the only thing. As we mentioned, that the Torah tells us Einad Milvade, there's nothing but God. And while the classic understanding of that is that there is one God, that it's an affirmation of our monotheism, the Kabbalistic, the mystical understanding is that nothing else exists besides God. And if nothing else exists besides God, then why are we saying Echad? Why are we saying one? Because one as an ordinal number, I think ordinal, connotes that there's a second, right? One comes in the number line. But first you have one, and then you have two. As opposed to Yachid, as opposed to the only one, that would seem to be more descriptive. It would seem to express more what we're trying to get at. But we say Echad, and there are a lot of explanations as to why we say Echad. But ultimately, the idea is that Echad is responding in some way to our perception of the matter. The Talmud teaches that Echad stands for, the Echad is spelled with three letters, Aleph, Ches, and Daled. Aleph has the numerical value of 1, and it represents the oneness in creation. Ches is 8, and it represents the 7 firmaments, so they're called 7 various spiritual realms, and the 8th being this physical world. And Daled represents the 4 directions of the compass. And that all of these are unified by the Aleph, by the 1. And that's Echad. And when we think about, similar to what we were discussing at the end of yesterday, when we think about the nature of human or physical existence, it can be sort of hard to discern where is God in all of this, or the flip side of that coin would be where are we in all of this? It often seems for us as physical beings of limited capacity that it's hard to understand either how everything can be godly, or how if it's very physical, how can there be God in it? And the meditation that is given, the thought that is provided to contemplate on is thinking about the sun. And when we think about the sun, our experience is that the sun is comprised of 2 elements. There's the sun and the sunlight, right? The sun stands 96 million miles away, and its light extends down into this world. And we interact with and experience sunlight as an existence separate from the sun to some capacity. That if we close the shades, the sunlight is blocked from entering our space. And while the sun is very far away and we can't reach it, or we can't affect it, or we can't change its influence on us, we can block out the sunlight almost as a second entity. And at the same time, when we think about the sun, the way it stands in the sky, in the space of the galaxy as a star, its light, if we were to, so to speak, hone into the sun, its light is totally unified, is almost, so to speak, an afterthought, and really in some ways not existing, because it is a mere function of the fact that it is a luminary. It's a function of the fact that there are gases that are burning that is creating a super intense fire. But if we were to, so to speak, travel to the sun, we wouldn't interact with its light. We would be interacting with the gases that are burning and the body of the sun itself. And so the meditation that is that is sort of prescribed in the Kabbalistic works is to spend some time thinking in our mind's eye about how the sun extends itself into sunlight, and examining the nature of sunlight as an existence, that it is both an existence in and of itself, and that its existence is totally subjugated and totally suspended in deference to the body of the sun itself. And when we spend time thinking about the sun, we use the sun as an example, as a metaphor for the creation of existence. And that existence, certainly physical existence, we feel as an entity, we feel ourselves as an entity, we feel the table and the chair and the floor we're sitting on as entities. And yet at the same time, to understand the nature of, if everything is truly godly, it's all unified, and it is all expressions. It's all expressions of one source. That means that they're like rays of the sun. And that when disconnected from the sun or distinguished from the sun, we can perceive them to exist. But when we look at the source, we lose sight of everything ancillary. And this is a meditation for the word echad, for saying Havai Hashem echad, when we finish the Shema, is trying to understand, cultivate a little feeling for ourselves of just how deep the unity goes. Because as much as our goal is to transcend or to look past the veil and see the essence as it is, beyond any type of definition, namely that there is Hashem's essence, there's God's essence that encompasses all. It's important for us to contextualize how we fit into that essence. And we both start off the Shema saying that, and we end the Shema saying that. As we mentioned, Shema has connotations of the words understanding and gathering and elevating, right? And we said that we're gathering and we're elevating our Yisrael, our essence as a Jew, which is comprised of both that which we struggle with as Sarisim Elikim, that you wrestled with God, and contains that which is our most elevated, sophisticated self, which is that our existence as Jews, as souls and bodies, indicates the grand master plan, so to speak, Hashem's ultimate desire that there should be godliness revealed in this physical world, and that the entire purpose of creation was for us to be here today to unify existence by creating in our mind a reality that Hashem is the essence of existence. And we say it at the end that we should live in that unity. We should live in a space of unity, and that we should be able to, in some ways, instill in ourselves a truer understanding of existence. Not that we feel our own existence, and not that we feel the world as an existence, but that we're constantly, or at least we have a moment in which we can truly identify ultimate unity. So there's a lot more to say that's coming to mind right now, but we'll save it for a different time. And we'll focus on echad, we'll focus on this unity. So we'll get ready for the Shema, since we've prepared ourselves in a mind exercise. We'll begin to get ready for creating that unity. Like we said yesterday, that the goal of creating Achdus Hashem, of creating unity in our minds, of creating that reality for us, is that when we carry this insight with us, it helps us transcend the struggles and the limitations that we face throughout the day. Is that a question?
Yeah. I learned a million years ago in a Gemara class that if you extend the Dalet, it extends your life. Is there a Kabbalistic response to that, or a root of that in Kabbalah, in like Hasidus?
Yeah. So when we elongate the Dalet, there are some people who have the custom to sort of really emphasize it vocally. Our idea is more in Hasidus, it's much more about elongating it mentally, and it is about trying to. The Dalet represents the 4 directions of the compass, and it's trying to internalize just how far the reaches of godliness is and how unlimited it is. I had a friend who was an old timer whose favorite expression was that it's all God all the time. And that, can sound like a sort of trite expression, but it provides for a lot of meat to meditate on. And when you can think about what does it mean, all God, right? Or you can think about what it means all the time. And all the time is really extending that reach of just how far godliness infuses everything. Like the 4 directions of the compass, all of existence is we're trying to maximize our perception of how great our understanding of this essence is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Cool. That's a good question. All right, so we're gonna get ready now. We're gonna everybody's sitting like we've mentioned. We're gonna cover our eyes. We're gonna start first, and we're just gonna think about the sun for a second. And if everybody's sitting in a room that has windows, if it's not snowing by you, then maybe you can feel a little sunlight. Or we'll imagine in our mind a little sunlight. And we'll think about the warmth and the brightness of the sunlight. And we'll follow it back to the body of the sun. And we'll feel its warmth on our face. And we'll feel its brightness. And we'll try to gain a little insight into the nature of the sun's rays and how they are unified with their source. And as we follow the sunlight back to its source, we're reminded that we are the rays of Hashem. And as such, we are intrinsically connected with our source. And as we prepare to gather our essence, to gather our intellect and our emotions our thought, our speech, and our actions. We're gathering ourselves to align and to unify our existence as recognizing it as a ray of the essence, which means also that our abilities and our expressions of ourselves throughout our day are an expression of that essence, and that our abilities come from that essence. For we inside of us have a divine soul that is that godly essence. And we'll take a deep breath and we'll prepare ourselves. And we'll get ready to unify that essence, thinking as we say each word slowly and with kavana, with intention, that we'll think about one of the messages that we've shared for each one of these words. And now we have a full picture of the entire Shema Yisrael. And we'll try to infuse each word that we say with a meaning that we've mentioned to transform our perception and to generate for ourselves an insight. So we'll say it together. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And we'll stay for a moment with our eyes still covered. Remaining in this realm that we have created for ourselves, where we are negating the fragmentation of the world that we woke up in, and instead focusing on the echad, focusing on the unity of the intrinsic relationship between the sunlight and the sun. And as we uncover our eyes, we embrace a world that we have reborn for ourselves, a world that we see not as fragmented, but as harmonious. And in that harmony, we can extend a similar reality for ourselves by saying Baruch Shem. And we create that similar reality for ourselves in knowing that concealment is also an expression of godliness. And it doesn't contradict, but it in fact is a way in which we can interact and relate to our Creator in a way that, although I might not see it, I know He's there. And we'll finish off with the Baruch Shem. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchusai Le'olam Va'ed. And when we say Va'ed, we'll discuss this more next week, but Va'ed, forever, is, the Kabbalists teach us, is a based on various Kabbalistic methodologies of changing out letters and swapping them for other letters, is a permutation of echad. And the same echad that we talked about today as the sun and the sunlight being intrinsically one, Va'ed is the sort of hint to that in the way it's covered over, is perceiving the sunlight as its own existence. And as much as we live in this world and the sunlight is its own existence, and we feel, in the corollary, that means that we feel our own existence in this world, by the same token, we know that it's really just It's a concealment of the true essence, which is echad, which is that the sun and the sunlight are one, and that we and Hashem are one, and that the world in Hashem is all one, and that all of existence is an expression, or various expressions, limited expressions of a true, infinite, ultimate essence, which is God, which is our creator. So everybody should have a great day and a blessed day, a day of actualization and activation, and a day of inspiration. And we should carry this insight, and we should use what we create for ourselves in these moments as inspiration for ourselves to be good to each other and to spread goodness and kindness. And we should share our inspirations with others, because we don't daven for ourselves, like we said in the beginning. And the insights that we create are not for ourselves, not only in how we treat one another, but that our minds are tremendously powerful objects, and each person has their own relationship with their creator, and we can create for ourselves important realities that deserve to be shared with one another. And we should always remember that whatever we create here we should interact with it throughout the day to translate that abstract into a concrete that we can share with one another to inspire one another. So everybody have a great day.